What's up, Marco? Look who's got their own studio. It's in the works. I don't know how the sound is going to be, but got to dress it up a little bit. Fake background, so strong. I'm out of breath. I can't believe you don't have electricity, dude. That could be the absolute single worst thing on the planet in the middle of summer. I hope you find a way to get through it. I'm going to give you something to edit when you get it, but hope you're doing all right, dude. Got to catch my breath, man. I'm freaking out of breath. It's at the top of the stairs, so when I walk up, obviously I'm gassed. I gotta adjust the lighting in here. Oh, blow me out. Too much? Lighter is better. All right, dude. 3, 2. Hey, it is Blummer, and you are listening to the Bleacher Blums podcast. And if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, yes, Bleacher Blums does have a YouTube channel. You can go check it out, Bleacher Blums on YouTube, or you can go to @BleacherBlums on Twitter, Instagram, send questions, ask, inquire, or you can go to bleacherblums.com. There's a mailbag there. You can send us questions on there also, or find out how to find us on YouTube or on any podcast platform you can find a podcast on. You're going to find the Bleacher Blums. And if you are watching this on YouTube, this is a new setup for me. I actually have a potential sound room, sound studio, so to speak. It's a little pocket office that my wife has created in our house. I got a little temporary backdrop that's going to show you a couple of t-shirts that you can find on @RamShirts, ramshirts.com, crushcitytees.com. They do an unbelievable job. They obviously do all of our swag. You can see they take some of my quotes up here, like "sup." Every time you tweet me, I'll send that back to you if you take a picture of the booth. And then just a custom logo that I had made here that my buddy Mark Ramos, producer and swag maker, who hooked me up with. So I hope you enjoy that if you're watching on YouTube. If not, and you're listening to this podcast, this is the Bleacher Blums podcast. Usually I'm on here with my co-host David Tuttle, but he is unavailable. He is vacationing right now, and we're just trying to get content out to you. So make sure you find him @RealDavidTuttle on Twitter and on Instagram. And of course, if you want to reach yours truly, you know to go to @Blummer27 on both Instagram and on Twitter to find me. So I hope you are enjoying your day. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I hope that you are sharing this podcast with everybody that you know so they can get in on the act and enjoy the time in the bleachers. We obviously talk a lot of baseball. We talk a lot of sports. We've got a lot of family involved. This session may not have Tuttle in it, so I'm going to rag on him a little bit. And, I'm just jealous. It's all envy because he's out there in Hawaii. So my co-host David Tuttle played at the University of Santa Clara, played on Team USA, played a ton of minor league baseball, just never got the break to get to the big leagues, but we are very good friends. He's got very good insight and obviously doing quite well if he's taking the family to vacation in Hawaii. So I hope he's doing a little hula dance for me and entertaining the family while I entertain you. And the funny thing about that is him not being here is the fact that I can tell you that I have not been watching any of the NBA championship. Number one, most commonly, I don't care, to be honest with you. I'm not an NBA guy. I love me some college hoops, but the NBA game is just unappealing to me. And I think you even heard some quotes from Klay Thompson after the championship, kind of talking a little bit of trash, getting a little petty, which I don't mind at all if you've followed me on Twitter. He said, "We're shooting threes and winning championships." And that's basically what the NBA has become. I grew up in the age of the Lakers-Celtics matchup where they just, Detroit Pistons, the bad boys, they just bash each other in the lane. If you came into the lane, you were getting crushed. And the skill wasn't actually shooting those three-pointers, even though it was quite helpful, and obviously can win championships, especially in this era of NBA champions. But the Golden State Warriors, again, tricked the system, manipulated the system, and won the system. And I know Tuttle, if he was on here right now, would be talking mad trash about how great the Golden State Warriors would be and are, and I would just be sitting here going, "That's cool, man. I had no idea." Until I got the alert on my phone, and even some of my daughters were noticing on Instagram that they were the NBA champions. So all the best to them. Great job. Again, they got back, got the title. Pretty fired up for them. I think that's a great thing. But bigger things were happening this week in Astros baseball. Obviously, I broadcast for the Houston Astros, and I had the chance to do something that is rarer in modern baseball than it ever has been. It is more rare than a no-hitter. It is almost as rare as a perfect game. But the immaculate inning. Now, let me explain this, because I have actually had the opportunity, I believe, to broadcast this and talk about it previously one time when Will Harris did it in 2019. So the immaculate inning, which happens more rare than no-hitters, is when the pitcher goes out, strikes out the side, which isn't all that rare, but what makes it rare is that the pitcher does it in 9 straight pitches. And that's exactly what happened when Luis Garcia took the mound the other day in the second inning. He had the bottom to middle part of the order coming up, Nathaniel Lowe, Ezekiel Duran, and Brad Miller, and he proceeded to go out there. And I think the fun part was that I was able to... Marco's back. I was able to go out there and broadcast that game and call it. But at the same time as I was calling the game, I was actually talking about Aledmys Diaz and his broken glove that gave up an error in the first inning, forced Luis Garcia to throw 30 pitches. He bounces back in the second inning, throws 9 pitches, and strikes out Lowe, Duran, and Miller in progression, and we got to be on the call for that.
An immaculate inning. 9-pitch, 3 strikeout. Rarely happens in baseball. Luis Garcia, an immaculate inning and a fist pump.
That in itself was a miraculous thing. Both TK and I, you could hear it in our voices, had an absolute blast calling that. It was exciting. I tried to be as calm as I could as you're starting to witness this and realize that greatness was about to happen. And of course, when he struck out Brad Miller, we lost it. And we got to talk about it for a couple more innings until it happened again.
Goes dugout. He
Yes!
did it!
That was incredible!
You've got to be kidding me. 2 immaculate innings.
2 of them.
In one game. That has to be a new major league mark. That could not have ever happened before. Phil Maton is thrilled as he walks off the mound. Luis Garcia just got matched by Maton. Same 3 guys.
The second time in one game, Phil Maton came out with the same 3 hitters, Nathaniel Lowe, Ezekiel Duran, and Brad Miller. All 3 got punched out on 9 straight pitches again. So we witnessed something that had never, and I repeat, never happened in Major League Baseball. 2 immaculate innings. And in my mind, I'm thinking about what's going on and how brutal it has to be for those 3 guys to have that happen to them twice. And in the thought process of being emasculated during a game, I came up with Immaculated, which I thought was highly entertaining, and obviously fans took kindly to that. So I appreciate you for listening and understanding that. But just to give you an idea, that is something that is never, literally, if you had been watching that game, you had never seen that before in a Major League game. Think about how many games that TK has called. Think about how many games that I have played in. I think I've played in about 1,500 games. TK's been broadcasting since 1993, and his dad, think about how many games he went to with his dad where they had been broadcasting, watching games, witnessing greatness, and then all of a sudden, the other day, we see 2 immaculate innings in the same game that had never, ever been done before in the game of baseball. So a credit to Phil Maton, a credit to Luis Garcia, also a credit to Martin Maldonado. He had a chance to catch both those. So the smile on his face at some of the pictures after the game were absolutely priceless and gave you an idea of how much it meant to those guys. The dugout thoroughly enjoyed it. It's something that we probably won't see again for another 150 years. But it was a lot of fun to be able to witness. And one more caveat that I want to throw in there, in case you're kind of wondering what is so crazy and so weird and so historic about this. Luis Garcia wears number 77. Phil Maton, and I know Astro fans are sitting in their car at the gym, walking, taking the dog out for a walk. All of a sudden, said in your mind or said out loud, Phil Maton wears number 88. So go think about that. Absolutely historic, absolutely incredible. I had an absolute blast calling that. You can hear it in my voice. I know sometimes it may be unprofessional, but I, like you, am a fan of the game of baseball. And when I witnessed history, I lost my mind. I thought it was incredible, and I hope that we see something like that again. But that's why you continue to watch baseball. All right. I think that's all I'm going to do for that segment. What's up, Marco? What happened, man?
Man, electricity went out on the...
How brutal
feels like
is
100
that?
degrees outside. Come on, man.
Dude, seriously. I mean, I heard that they were going to have that happen, but I had no idea that that was actually going to happen.
Good.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mentioned that too before you popped on.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good, dude. No, you're
Interrupted.
fine. Well, I mean, yeah, you may have to, or you can just leave in. I could care less.
No. Cut it out.
And there's other big news going around Houston. I just wanted to hit on this real quick because I was kind of fired up. I'm probably more of a soccer fan right now than I am an NBA fan. I know I talked about it earlier about how I didn't watch any of the NBA championship, even though I'm sure Tuttle got super stoked about it because the Warriors ended up winning. But one thing I have been doing is trying to watch some Premier League, trying to watch some of that. I know when the World Cup comes around, I'm a huge fan of all the countries that are able to play in that. And obviously, being a homer, you cheer for USA, but you know they're going to get smoked by somebody in Europe. But what's interesting about that is that in 2026, when the World Cup comes back to the United States, guess what? The city of Houston, along with several other cities around the U.S., are going to be able to be hosting games in the World Cup. So I'm actually pretty stoked about this, and I don't know who to reach out to, but I would love to be able to be on the announcement side or be able to be somewhere in the vicinity of being around the World Cup that is coming to Houston. So mark your calendars in 2026. I believe NRG Stadium is going to be the site where they're going to have some of these soccer games, but the World Cup is coming to the States, and it's also coming to Houston, and I'm a novice, amateur, beginner soccer kind of watcher, but World Cup always entertains me because obviously I love the loyalty to the United States and I love the fervor and the excitement that are around everybody who roots for their country. And this being such an unbelievably diverse community and massive community here in Houston, I can't wait to see the excitement that the World Cup brings as they come back to Houston here in 2026. I'm excited about it. I hope that you are too. And more upcoming events, this one a little more recent than 2026 or a little more current, is going to be the Astros this upcoming week. They have got a road trip, and this road trip is going to be, is off the chain used too much, or is it still being used? Am I outdated in saying that? But I know that it's going to be unbelievable in so many different ways because this road trip coming up has the Astros going into Yankee Stadium for 4 games. They have a day off, and then they have 2 more at Citi Field. So get this. New York's second favorite team, third favorite team right now, the Houston Astros, and I mean that with tongue-in-cheek facetiously, that the favorite team in New York is the Houston Astros because we know how fans treat Houston. They are going to be in New York City for 1 entire week. I'm going to be there. My family's going to come up and visit. We're going to have plenty of content on that, and I will be doing my best to try and absorb the emotion of having the Houston Astros in the city of New York for a week. We all know how it goes down in Yankee Stadium. We saw it last year with, I think it was half capacity. This season is obviously going to have full capacity. I can only imagine some of the rants, chants, and excitement, visceral community that's going to be showing up in the city of New York to watch those games both in the stadium and I would imagine a little bit outside the stadium. I hope it is a safe trip, to be honest with you. I know that there's going to be a lot of competitive banter. I don't know how many fans are actually making it up to New York, but if you're in the vicinity, make sure you support your boys, but also be careful at the same time. Let's do it in good fashion, good, clean fun, as this rivalry has really heated up over the last couple of years. You've got 2 of the best sluggers. And beside all of the external action that's going to be happening, I cannot wait to put Yordan Alvarez in that stadium again, considering what he did last time he was there, 2 home run game against Garrett Cole, and then you put him up against Aaron Judge. Those are the 2, they might be the 2 biggest human beings in all of baseball, but then you have the 2 biggest sluggers in all of baseball, 1-2 in hard hit percentage, 1-2 in slugging percentage, 1-2 in OPS, and stuff like that. So you've got a lot of numbers, you've got a lot of big personalities, you've got a lot of big talent, all colliding in New York. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Yankees are obviously a team that has won 40 games plus, and then you also have the New York Mets, who are the second best team in baseball. I think if you had to calculate it right now, because they've won 40 plus games. And it's going to be a tough run for the Houston Astros. They will play the Mets at home before going on that road trip. but it's going to be very interesting in so many different factors, and I hope everybody tunes in. And again, make sure you're sending us your questions and your ideas and your thoughts about that series at Bleacher Blums, because there's going to be a lot going on. And the only thing I hope is that I can keep up, but I will have my family there, so hopefully they'll just have a camera on me the entire time, and we'll collect as much content as we can. So make sure you stay tuned to at Bleacher Blums. And I think that's going to do it for all the updates and some of the news. And I think right now we're going to take some questions. I know that my producer, Mark, is going to pop on and eventually give us some questions.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, Blum. Let's see here. So this weekend we're playing the White Sox. So this weekend the Astros are playing the White Sox, but you're only working one day out of the week because Apple took a day and ESPN took a day. How do you look at that? I mean, is it like, yay, I have a day off or a couple of days off, or is it a bummer that you don't get to be there, especially for the White Sox?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a connection there. Maybe it limits the opportunity for everybody to talk about 2005 again, although it was kind of fun to see, shaking your head, although it was kind of fun last year to have that ALDS, matchup was a lot of fun to kind of rekindle some of those postseason highlights between the two teams. But to be brutally honest and upfront, when you get 2 days off in the middle of June, you kind of look forward to it, but at the same time, you're disappointed because of the matchup. You've got two of the oldest managers in the game, in Tony La Russa and Dusty Baker, and obviously Tony La Russa's had his issues. The White Sox aren't playing as good, and so you like to beat up on those teams that you should be beating up on and that you did beat up on in the past, and just kind of remind them who you are. And Apple took a bite out of our schedule, and so did ESPN. And it's a little tough because the emotion that we bring to games, I think, entertains our fans and people around baseball. And I don't think that Apple does it justice, and hopefully ESPN does. I know the Sunday Night Crew for me has actually gotten really good with Carl Ravitch, Eduardo Perez, and David Cohn. I think they have done an excellent job. And truth be told, this Apple game that is coming Friday, that will be on Friday, will have a different crew than the Katie Nolan crew. And it's unfortunate that crew, that like Hunter Pence and I can't remember the other guy's name, but it's a shame that Katie Nolan takes the attention away from the game. You won't have that Friday when you have Chris Young, I know, is the player that's going to be broadcasting, and then he's got Melanie, I can't remember Melanie's name, but she does the play-by-play on radio for the Baltimore Orioles. So I haven't heard their broadcast, but I'm hoping it's a little bit better.
Yeah, so I have Melanie Newman, Chris Young, Hannah Kaiser, and Brooke Fletcher.
Yeah, so that's going to be the crew that I believe is working that Houston game. So it will be different than the Katie Nolan crew.
Yeah, Steven Nelson, Hunter Pence, Katie Nolan, and Heidi Watney. So, I mean, we're not really counting. It has been, about 6,078 days since you crushed Houston's dreams in the World Series. But we won't get too much into that. But, I mean, how much love does the South Side still give you?
Quite a bit, to be honest. And it was kind of it was every time I go through there, there's still security guards, ushers, front office staff, training staff, clubhouse managers, clubhouse kids. There's a lot of people around the field that are still there from that 2005 season. So yes, in that sense, I get a lot of love from that. And there's certain places around town that if I really needed a table, I could kind of remind them who what happened and the impact, and the name always jogs the memory. But I've got to give a lot of credit to the White Sox front office and the White Sox in-game production crew, because every time I go through there, they will put a highlight on the scoreboard out there, and they will shoot me in the booth broadcasting for the Astros, and the fans stand up, give the applause where my ego is too big for the booth and I got to relax for a little bit, and TK's got to bring me back down to earth. But they do treat me extremely good. And even the Southside broadcast, the NBC Comcast crew, once a series, they will actually shoot into our booth and mention that I'm in the building. But yeah, there are certain perks to being a World Series champion, much like I know a lot of these Houston Astro guys know, being in a great city like Houston, winning a World Series championship and bringing that much attention to the city provides certain perks. If you need a table, maybe a free drink, fan recognizes you. And I can't tell you how many times I've been, just being a Houston broadcaster in the city of Houston, how gracious some of the fans are with me here in the city. So, having been successful in 2 great cities has really been a blessing for me.
Awesome. Going back to this New York trip, because it's kind of unique that you get to stay in one place for a week. That's not your house. So does that throw off any routines, or is it, just a lot easier, or is it, how's that for the travel?
A lot of it depends on the city, because, we had this experience. I never had this experience as a player. I don't remember, but I remember as a broadcaster when we were playing the National League West, we actually went in and did the same thing in San Francisco. So when we play the Oakland A's, we stay in San Francisco. So the hotel that we usually stay at in San Francisco is relatively close to, AT&T Ballpark or whatever it is now in San Francisco. It's got 78 different names. But we stay at the same hotel in San Francisco that we do in Oakland. And we actually had a 4-game series and then a 3-game series. So there was a week, that you were in San Francisco. And it's good to a point, but you kind of exhaust the city a little bit. And that trip seemed extremely long, and it's just odd unpacking living out of a hotel is just odd in itself. But to do it for a week makes it seem like it's a little bit longer. I would imagine that New York is going to be maybe a little bit more fun, just because the city's bigger. There's more to do around there. There's great restaurants. There's good bars. I think I know my family's coming up, so I'll have the distraction of having my girls and my wife with me. And my wife has always been somebody who gets out of the hotel, walks around, figures out what's happening, goes to a show, goes to Central Park. I think she actually mentioned she wants to go to the Central Park Zoo that I didn't even know was in there until I watched the movie Madagascar. So we're going to try and relive a little bit of that and take the kids around and see some stuff. And obviously it's going to be, it's been 2.5 years since we've been out there. So we're going to, check out what's different, what's the same, if there's still some restaurants that we loved going to that are still there, but it's always a good time. So that's going to help kind of kill some of the time that we're out there. But I'm not a fan of new Yankee Stadium at all. I was a huge fan of old Yankee Stadium just because of the mystique, the lore, and the idea that I was digging into a box that Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, and some of these guys dug into. So that's kind of lost on me in the new Yankee Stadium, and it's just kind of this concrete, monolithic piece of, stadium that just doesn't have the character for me that old Yankee Stadium did. But I love what they've done with Citi Field as far as the New York Mets are concerned. Shea Stadium was an absolute dump. As much as it was fun to play in there, the ongoing joke, there was a little bit of a gap in the hallway. It wasn't even a hallway. We had to walk underneath the stands to get from the clubhouse to the dugout. And we had, a running joke about how many dead bodies were buried underneath this place. So we're kind of glad that they blew that place up. And I had the chance to play in both new Yankee Stadium and Citi Field. And Citi Field, I think they did a phenomenal job about going, setting that place up. It's totally enclosed. It's kind of on top of you. You kind of feel the energy of the fans, which is a lot of fun. But the other unique thing about Citi Field is it's right next to LaGuardia Airport. So it literally sometimes, if the wind is blowing right and if they've changed the landing pattern, it feels like those planes are literally landing in left field when they come down. It's crazy. But I'm hoping it goes by quick. But it's a good trip. It's a good city to be in for a week.
Are your golf clubs going to make the trip up to New York?
You better believe it. We got a day off up there, and I can't remember the golf course that we're getting hooked up at, but I know that we're getting hooked up at a really nice golf course. So yes, being in a city for that long and having the opportunity to play a nice course, yeah, I'm going to spend the extra dough and send the clubs up there, and hopefully they get up there in one piece and we can have some fun for sure.
Cool. Switching back to the podcast. We just had Ben Verlander. We had Evan Gattis. We've had astrophysicist on there, but because we're trying to get maybe one guest a month, or we're working on stuff like that. Is there someone that you're like, man, this is going to be a get. This is I want to get this person. I want to ask this person some questions.
Oh man. Selfishly, if Ben Verlander could get his brother on his podcast and then send him over to our podcast, I would absolutely love that. There's plenty of Hall of Fame guys that I would love to be able to chat with. I'm sure that Tuttle has a guy, a pitcher that he would love to be able to chat with, like a Greg Maddux or, somebody like that. And it's always guys out of our era. But if I could go out there and get one guy, it would be like Cal Ripken Jr., a guy that I watched growing up who was a larger shortstop and kind of played forever. And, Nolan Ryan is a guy that I think about too. Some of these guys, and the reason I say that is because there are certain guys who played during an era where playing every day was expected. It was mandatory. And I think that's why they put up these astonishing numbers of, the most strikeouts. If you could get a Barry Bonds and talk about home runs, he's an unbelievable conversation about hitting because he was on such a different level. Tony Gwynn was the same way, where they just have a knowledge that is beyond what we can understand, but it'd be fun to talk to them. But I also would like to talk to those guys that have all-time records, whether it be, Pete Rose with the hits, Barry Bonds with the home runs, Nolan Ryan with the strikeouts, and talk to them about longevity, setting that mark, and understanding that those numbers will never, ever be broken again. And that's where it would be interesting. Not just comparing eras, but kind of seeing their idea of the current state of the game. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Cool. I got one last thing here.
All right.
I've seen it on Twitter. Someone's asked, a couple of people have asked, and, you were able to respond about, would you coach, and, some baseball. Now, is there, just hypotheticals here, is there a level that you're like, hey, I don't want to start, I'd prefer not to, be here. Is it MLB or nothing? Is it the majors or is it like high school, college, and what would be your ideal if it were to happen?
If I were to get the opportunity to coach, there are probably two circumstances that I would consider. One would be a head, probably, I'd probably have to be a head coach in college. I'm not sure where, to be honest with you, because obviously I'm an alum of Cal Berkeley. They're in a great conference in the Pac-12, but at the same time, financially it's got to make sense. I've got a wife and 4 kids. I've been spoiled rotten throughout my career. I've been spoiled as a broadcaster. So I have expectations financially that I would like to go into a situation. That's got to be one of them, but it's also got to be, the team, the university, the conference, the SEC is something that jumps out. I know that those guys do extremely well, but there's also that pressure of being expected to do well. And I think that's something else that appeals to me, is having that expectation of doing well. So if I were to go into the college ranks, I would like to be in a Power 3 conference. I would like to be a head coaching job and really, put my handprint on what that university is doing, because I feel, my daughter's going to the University of Arkansas, and I'm already sold. I'm a loyalist. I want to be loyal to something, and I think that's where college gets really interesting for me. And then selfishly, at the big league level, it would have to be a big league job somewhere, whether it be first base coach, third base coach, bench coach. I don't know if hitting coach, man, all the guys I talk to are amazing people and amazing hitting coaches. But you talk about high stress and dealing with personalities on a daily basis. That is an exhaustive amount of work for limited return. I know that underneath you get respected by your players and they appreciate you, but externally you just don't get that love that you probably deserve. I know, Alex Cintron and Troy Snicker, those guys deserve a lot of love for what the Astros are doing. And those are two guys that I really talk to quite a bit because I appreciate what they do and how they do it. So I've been kind of picking their brains and talking to them, but they've mentioned that it's really a tough job. And then, bench coach or manager, obviously that would be a lot of fun too. In the right situation, in the right city, with the right personnel and the right organization. I would not turn down an opportunity to interview for any of those jobs. And it's kind of interesting, Phil Nevin getting the interim job out there in California. I have a great relationship with him. I have a great relationship with AJ Hinch. I have a great relationship with Brad Ausmus. Some of my contemporaries are starting to move into managerial jobs and things like that. But I don't know how they feel about me being an ex-media guy if I ever came into their dugout. But, if the phone call ever came, I will tell you honestly right now, I probably wouldn't decline it. I'd probably take it.
Nice. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, dude, anytime.
That's
It's good having you on, Marco.
I don't like to be on, but
you did great.
Whatever. Yeah. Got to do what we got to do sometimes.
Yeah, we do. And, of course, at the end of every podcast here at the Bleacher Blums, we like to give a shout-out to all military personnel, both home and abroad, protecting our borders, keeping us safe, and allowing the Bleacher Blums podcast to continue. All of the first responders, police personnel, fire personnel, EMTs, nurses, doctors, all the essential workers, keeping those supply chains going as best they can and keeping those shelves supplied as much as they can. And, of course, to all the teachers enjoying your time off, we hope you enjoy it. Get those tans worked out because August is coming up pretty quick. And, of course, at the end of every podcast, you better get after. Good Lord. And, of course, at the end of every podcast, we tell you to get after it and believe it.
And if you're over the age of 45, please get screened for colorectal cancer.
That boy. We did it.
So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notified when we post new videos.